What's going on, everybody? This is Mike Bennett and Mike Baker coming at you with another episode of Google News Update. And today we're going to be going over three key topics. I'll give you the titles real quick. First one is going to be Google's RCS messaging texting on Android phones is about to get a lot better. Second one is going to be Google's totally creepy, totally legal health data harvesting. And the third one, so Google Stadia's launch was a disaster. What's next?
Yeah. How do you feel about this whole RCS thing, this main topic, this RCS texting issue with Android and iPhone, with iMessage and Android and blue bubbles and green bubbles?
It's one of those, man. I think so. It's good, but it's late. Like that. I think that a part of what has given Apple, cutting over a little bit to what Apple has done, from what we talked about a little bit in our other shows. But they kind of have branded themselves strong with that feature of like basically creating an idea of a closed community from something as simple as texting that we use, right? So with Android being able to add on similar features and moving towards, I guess, that level of technicality, if you want to call it that, with like text messaging, it's good for Android phones, Android users. But I just feel like it's late, And it may be something that catches on. Sometimes, some companies, they bloom late. I mean? I know Amazon was doing their thing for a long period of time, but it seemed like within the past, just for example, for like the past 6 or 7 years, definitely it has become like a powerhouse of the, in the world, having the hands in all types of things, right? So I think that's, I guess, more like on a grander scale of an example. But just looking at this, man, I think with the text message stuff, and I looked at it, I didn't see anything being addressed about the messages not being split. You know what I mean? I feel like at the end of the day, bro, like if that, and that's something you already know. I reluctantly got an iPhone, right? But I'm Android. I'm still Android, to the day I die. They come out with another phone that's, I feel like, that fits, man. I'm gonna cop it. But it's like, that's something that I did always have like a little issue with, man. It's like, if you're arguing with somebody through text and then that joint all broken up, it's like it's no reason to really argue. You know what I mean? Like versus on an iPhone, that joint you can send them a whole 4-page letter and it'll be in that format. So
you try to send them like somebody like a page long message and they come up in 3 different pieces and come in the wrong order. It's like,
okay,
I don't even know what you're saying right now.
Right. You know what I mean? You trying to put it, the argument no more. You trying to piece together the message. You just like, man, forget it.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So with Apple, they had a head start because they do power plays. Like when it came to the iPhone in general. I mean, the iPhone in general was like, yo, they only allowed it to even come out initially on AT&T, and then later it got to be on Verizon, and then later it got to be the Sprint T-Mobile. I mean, when iMessages came out, and even to this day, iMessages only comes out because Apple puts in these servers, and like technically iMessages ran off a separate service dedicated to Apple. I mean, and the way that all the carriers still need to have like a standard for text messaging. I mean, so like something that works on all phones, no matter what carrier you are, and SMS/MMS, the multimedia version of SMS, that was like the default standard. I mean, and Google, instead of Google has all these different messaging services. I mean, they had Hangouts, and technically you could use Hangouts with a messaging as a messaging platform. I mean, you can use that as a text platform. I mean, but then they also got like all these other ones like Duo and Allo. If they had Allo, they got rid of Allo. But with RCS, what they were trying to do was make a standard for carriers. Yeah, I mean, so they were trying to make a new standard that was not SMS, not MMS, but gave you the features that iMessage give you, but in an open platform like MMS and SMS, so that anybody can take this technology and use it. Because right now, with iMessage, is the only people that can use iMessage is iPhone users. I mean,
it's the I people.
Yeah, it's the iPhoneers. I mean, so like the RCS was supposed to be meant for like, because people use text messages for other shit. Like people use text messages to talk to other computers. Like you can send a text from one computer to the next computer, and technically you sending some data over. I mean, so like they wanted to make an open messaging technology that all providers can technically use. And the issue was that, like, because I had this messaging app, the one that they promote as being the RCS messaging app. I have this app on my iPhone, on my Android, and I've had it for like maybe going on, I want to say 2 years now, because they've been talking about pushing this capability out for like 2 years, RCS for like 2 years. The issue was that AT&T and Verizon and all these companies wasn't trying to support.
He wasn't trying to deal with it.
I mean, they were like, SMS is good and RCS is, SMS is good. We don't need RCS. I mean, so like Google is like, well, fuck it for real. Like if y'all not going to support it, we manage all the phones anyway.
Right.
I mean, so, like,
you know what?
Like y'all not going to do it. We trying to work with y'all, and like we gave y'all Android. We're trying to give y'all this RCS platform. Y'all don't want to use it, and our customers are dying for it. I mean, fuck it. We will set it up and make this shit possible ourselves. And like it's the same app. I actually did this earlier today. It's the same app. All you have to do, you have to open up the functionality because it's not set on there by default because your carriers aren't. I mean, it's usually supposed to be something that AT&T and Verizon is supposed to upload to your phones so it can do this. But since they're not doing this, you have to essentially open up some settings on the Messages app and make it possible.
Yeah,
and feature. And even then, like, this isn't necessarily guaranteeing that it'll work with iMessages. It has the capability that, like, when you send those videos over chat, over text messages, like when you send a video from iPhone to Android, it dumbs down the video to like
completely
like unviewable of resolution. Like
it's purposely done.
I mean, like you can't see what it is. I mean, and they do it. It technically is purposely done. It's purposely done on Apple's part because they have that technology and they know that nobody else does. I mean, so they just like, well, we're not going to downgrade it. We're just going to make y'all look bad. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to just like make the original video low quality because it looks good on our phones. It looks perfect on our phones. What's wrong with y'all Androids? And what's wrong is that once the carrier get the copy, the carrier has to downgrade it to a copy they can send to anybody that's over MMS. I mean, and they send the downgraded copy. So you don't get it. You don't get the one that's worth it. That's why I usually take longer. Like when somebody send a iMessage video to somebody else with iMessages, they basically get it instantly versus when you send it to somebody over like on an Android, it has to convert it and then it sends the video.
It's one of those.
I mean, it's one of those that the carrier, which is the middleman, is in it. I mean. Nobody thinks about them anymore. Like you don't think about AT&T when you're using your phone. You just think about the fact you gotta pay them.
You got a phone, yeah, right. I mean, yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
I mean,
the name of the bill is AT&T or Verizon. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't really have to think about them until like the service isn't working or some situation like this where it's even more complex or why they even interfering with your messages in the first place. And Google is like, well, fuck it, we have enough servers, we'll manage it. We'll lock it down, and because by default RCS is supposed to be also encrypted as well, which is what is a great feature about iMessages. That communication is essentially encrypted, similar to like WhatsApp. They'll try to push this option, but right now it's one of those things where you got to be in the know to even turn on RCS. And
yeah, you gotta be more on the techie side to really even.
Yeah, like you gotta go through the 10-step program. Like, open this up, check this feature, press OK. I mean, cut the phone off, clear the cache. I mean, you do all that, then you got it. So even now with RCS being out, until they just give it to everybody on their phones by default, when you download the app, even from the Play Store, it says that it's a beta. I mean, so like they let you know that you part of this beta program to even use it. So it's not like it's going to even that it's even for the populace yet until like the next generation, everybody starts getting new phones, and the next generation of phones they'll have it by default.
It's all right, man, and I see where they're going, but they got some ways to go.
Until the carriers start complaining, and that's the thing. The carriers might complain and be like, "Y'all are going around us." Like, y'all, we make people pay for these text messages.
We told you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yo, we've been trying to get y'all to hop in. Y'all ain't want to hop in, so whatever.
But that may be a strong move for them because, yeah, I get it. It's one of those things. We'll see. Google, they're known for being pioneers, right? They get the arrows in their back. You know what I mean? When it comes to doing stuff like this, and sometimes it's worked. Sometimes it hasn't. It's been a lot. We already mentioned about 2 or 3 apps that they put a lot of money into and developed that just flopped. Right? It was within this 5 or 10 minutes. So I mean, they known for that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, Google will create something and drop something quick. It's just one of those things. I mean, we got a topic that I want to talk about. Let's talk about this health topic, and then we can go into the Stadia topic because that's a product that is like, will they keep it? Will they drop it? Type thing.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So let's go into this health topic. I'll go ahead and read it. Google's totally creepy and totally legal health data harvesting. This article is just going into an issue that they have with partnerships with hospitals and healthcare providers. And the main thing is that Google has services and they have technologies that they allow other companies to use to better use their technologies or make technologies out of. Like Google Cloud is a platform that is something essentially is not necessarily Google. Google gives you all of these resources and they allow you as a programmer or a developer or as a company to make a application or to make a piece of software to give to other companies. And they have done that for a while with health organizations.
With the health people. Yeah. I think that it's it's a catch-22. It's something that again that is very forward progressing, but then you're going to dip into. I feel like when you're doing stuff like this, you're going to step on some toes, right? You're being bold. You're trying to move forward, push the envelope. Things are going to happen. You're going to look a certain way. Sometimes it may work, sometimes it doesn't. But with what they're doing now, I think it is smart because this health itself, like there's been an overall push for just healthy living within the past like 10 years in the world. I would say, like with the internet, being so widespread and so many daily users, the message starts to get out that people need to start taking better care of their health. And whenever things like that happen, a movement happens like that. A company wants to jump on that to see how they can have their hands in the mix to get something out of it, and gain more eyeballs, gain more influence, gain more money. So, I mean, it just comes down to, I think this is maybe like the second or third article I've seen where this is where it's at. And it just goes to show that, Google is really, they believe in this, and they want to try to find a way to figure this out. Because I think they had something before that they were trying it out, but then it got shut down because it was violating HIPAA laws.
Yeah, they had old Google Health originally. It was like originally called Google Health, and they got rid of that. I want to say like 2010, 2011. And yeah, it was mostly because they built it without the idea of actually having any HIPAA compliance in place. It was like before they really took, like they always had an inkling for having security as being like the default thing that they go by, like security is first type ideology. But when it came to HIPAA compliance, there was other regulations that weren't technology regulations that they had to put in place, like technology securities and like regulation policies about how information is shared that they didn't even come across. So they had to sort of pull back on it. They kept the technology around, but it wasn't open to the consumer. They pushed it to other companies that were in technology. I mean, that was in health, like insurance technologies, like hospitals. They gave that technology to them to be able to manage and to help organize stuff. They got developers to work with them to be able to create the software in a way that works for these hospitals and these in these health organizations. But at the same time, you got to be like, how trustworthy are the health organizations in these hospitals, and how
Oh, that introduces a whole nother like conversation, bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like, well, how secure are the people that are using the technology? Like, if it's just some nurse at a hospital, her job is mostly to be concerned about making sure that this patient is all right. They don't necessarily have the practice of HIPAA compliance. They don't necessarily get too much training. Well, I think nowadays they do, because so much is ran by computer. But originally they didn't have the ideology of like how information is to be secured and how certain people can't get access to certain things about somebody's health history.
Like health history. Yeah. I think that, and then too, you bring up an excellent point with that, man, because it's almost like they shut that down, right? But then you never know when stuff like this gets decommissioned, right? Like when they shut this stuff down, or they like reveal like what's going on, but they're trying to find some way to still reuse it.
Yeah,
it goes into the hands of someone that's still, we know that medical malpractice goes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still to this day. So the fact that they gave that much information over to somebody that it's like, and now it's like has private use, you never know what could be happening behind the scenes. That you give this to a certain hospital that's known for like I don't know if you can say it, but the hospital in Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're known, and it's been documented that they do crazy stuff, testing things and all stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. You can definitely say the companies that have treated Baltimore as a test bed for experimentation.
Yes.
I mean, there's definitely a particular hospital with a lot of funding in the Baltimore area with a J and a H. Yeah, I mean,
they got a good lacrosse team.
I mean, testing out experimentations on the poor and incapable of the community. Right. The information that they find and all the stuff that they put up there, I'm sure they're putting in these systems. And like, are they securing that information? Do they even care about that person? They even worry about their security of the information that they find out of what health issues they may have? There's just so much involved with health. And like, I mean, the technology is there for people to do stuff, but there's so much regulation that needs to come into place when making that technology, that just exposing it like a new app, like trying to treat it like a social media app and trying to get it to as many hands as possible isn't the thing to do.
You gotta do with health, man.
yeah. Like, you ain't trying to give everybody else's information as much as possible and let us all share it with each other. Like, that's not the thing. That's not the game you're playing right now. I mean, you want to lock that stuff down. Like, even with like Google has 23andMe. It's not Google. It's under Alphabet. So it's a branch of Google of Alphabet's organization. But 23andMe basically does DNA data collection, and I mean, that information is kind of, I mean, you learn a lot from just spitting in a little cup, man. I mean, you learn your genetic history, you learn your race, you learn your health conditions. I mean, you learn the stuff that you might be prone to, like allergic to, and like they know that just from all the test studies before you even know. You'd be like, oh shit! I mean, I knew I was allergic to lactose, but how you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like just from reading this, and like at the same time, they are starting to do this whole thing with like relationships. Like they show you other people that have your DNA line. I mean, and they give a percentage of how much DNA you match with another person. They'll even point out where that person is located. And that's about it until you actually until you actually decide to connect with that person. Once you connect with that person, then you can start comparing like genetic history.
Bro, think about how powerful that is, man. That
looking at it like like that's a potential new social network in like 5-10 years. Like, if that thing pushes on, that could be a whole new social network.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know how people will take it in the masses once it gets to like 100 million billion people. I mean, like the masses might go crazy about it, but like, I mean, we already have the talks about what are they doing with the DNA and what are they doing with all that information. But I mean, if we ever get past the point where it becomes acceptable, then that means everybody will just start doing it. And I mean, it'll start becoming one of those things where let it become a pop cult thing. Like, let some celebrities talk about how they did their stuff on 23.
Yeah.
I mean, next thing you know, everybody getting it for Christmas. I mean, like Black Friday, everybody popping on. That's how I got mine. I went on Amazon on the Black Friday and got 2 of them on the cheap. I mean, so like
that's how it is, man. Hustle.
Like that's what they're gonna end up doing. They're gonna get everybody. And with that type of information, you gotta lock that stuff down. And like in this case, like it's you have to have like regulation, not just with the people that are holding the data, because Google's just holding the data. They create the application and they sort of hold the data, but they don't really care about
they don't really. And I think a part of it too is, like, I read in the article, they're saying that, and I didn't actually pay attention to this, but they're saying that it's a wide known fact that HIPAA laws are out of date. So you think about a lot of the things that they already had trouble with the HIPAA laws, right? And even with them having trouble with it, the HIPAA laws, as far as I guess how it applies to the technology age, is still out of date. So, there's no telling.
They're essentially rewriting the HIPAA laws as this technology is becoming usable. Like as more people are using this technology to manage health in general, new laws have to essentially be recreated or rewritten just to be applicable for these new ways of doing things. And like I say, you got to be secure with the technology you're using. Like, they're using Google as the technology platform, but also the companies themselves that are using Google have to be secure. Like, if you're Kaiser Permanente, if you're United Healthcare, and like if you're a hospital, like if you're John Hopkins or whatever, you have to make sure that the people that have access to that information are locking this stuff down. Because I mean, if you find out how to access it, I mean, you could. When I was in the hospital, I was sitting there looking like, man, I could. If one of these nurses leave the door closed for a while, I can hop on this computer and try to look up some information, because it's just being me. I'm a computer person. I'm gonna look at the computer and be like, oh, what can I do on this machine? I mean, how much information can I get? And then I start thinking about it, like, because my immediate thing is like, all right, if I'm going to do something on a machine in that way, how am I going to be tracked? And I'm I'm in the freaking patient office, like they got my name already. So if I try
on camera,
like if I try to look up some information on this machine, they're going to know that I did it in this room.
There you go. I mean, it's one of the, like, when you read the article, bro, like I was going back over it, man, and it's talking about how a lot of this information and why it becomes dangerous. It's not just talking about, the testing and stuff like that that hospitals can do, and, coming up with all the type of things. I know at that place, that we can't name, or I don't know if we should, I don't know, but they have a study called pharmacology, right?
Yeah.
He said,
I know what it is.
But yeah, and they have a study called pharmacology where they study how different pharmaceuticals, different things they create in the labs affects different races. Like, that's a master's program study, right? So that's one component. But then there's another component where they use all of this information to somehow find like ties to like your average, like everyday, like life, how you spend your money, your credit worthiness, all of these things are like, they're using this information. That's why Google, it's why I was saying sometime before, it can kind of become sociopathic, because they are able to collect all of this data. And then, like, let me see, in the article, it says right here, like, a simple search terms as like nearest food pantry or nearest HIV test can offer further clues about income level, sex orientation, and like credit worthiness. I think it's in there. Like, that's you think, man, like, bro, it's all different types of. They can take this information that they've gotten, like with Google Health, and give it to a credit company.
Yeah, and that's
give it to like,
and that's part of the HIPAA compliance. Like, how can you can't share this data? You're the biggest advertisement company in the world. You cannot share this health data with your advertisement companies. Like, your advertisement division cannot be a part of your health division. No, in no form, shape, possible.
Right.
Because after that, you're going to be selling us everything. As soon as I get cancer, you're going to sell me the cure for cancer. Like, that's just going to be the business.
Every cough is going to be linked to cancer. Oh, what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You cough, your Google Assistant's going to wake up and be like, "Do you need anything? I'm gonna call your doctor right now." Like, I mean, like, yeah, for one, yeah, if you want that to happen, you got to approve it, and like, if you approve it, you still got to lock it down, and it's kind of complicated on how you like you sort of have to take data into your own hands, and that's what that whole Digital Rights Privacy Act and all of that stuff is about. Like, for all these companies that are making all these products that do data collection, you got to be able to empower the people that you're whose data you're collecting to be able to pull that data back. And like, that's what they don't have. I mean, a lot of companies, Google does a good job. Like, Google is one of the few companies that has one of those things where if you want, you can kill your account and download all of your data and essentially back out of their platform. But like, they don't have that. Like, that's not a standard. That's not a technology standard. That's something that Google took the initiative to try to do. I mean, and even then, they only do it but so much. You essentially sort of have to, once you do pull that data out, you kind of got to stop doing things the way you're doing them. Like, even if you pull your data out, they still got your IP address. So if you shopping anywhere else using any other service, they know who you are because they got your IP address.
Unless you want to say that.
Unless you
don't really know. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah. If you unless you move, got a new computer and got new internet, like, they still know who you technically are, and never use one of Google's services again.
Never. Yeah. They got you. Peace out all the way, man. We going our separate ways, man. The relationship is over. But then it's like, you think about it, like, is it real? Like, see, whenever you give your data away, and it's a rule of thumb, I think I learned when I first jumped into IT, that once something hit the internet, man, like, it's there forever.
Yeah, I mean,
like how do you
clones and copies? They do it for redundancy. Back it up.
So how do you really know? Like, they may say, all right, you can pull out all of your data, right? And we give you all of your stuff back. But it's like, you think that they ain't had that thing stacked, in several different data centers back there. Like, how do you really know?
That's why they even say that it takes weeks for them to even remove stuff. Like, because, like, even just a Google account, to have a Google account with basic Google services, that service is technically cloned all geographically. So like, if you do happen to go to Atlanta, originally your services might have been pulling from somewhere close to you. Like, if I'm in Baltimore, my service is probably pulling from a server in like Virginia somewhere, because that's close to me. But as soon as I go to Atlanta, my services have to be cloned from that Virginia server down to a server that's closer to Atlanta, so I can get to them faster. So then if I go back to Baltimore, I decide to delete my account, I mean, it may delete the stuff from Virginia, but it's still got to go and delete the stuff from Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, and that stuff it takes a while. So yeah, I mean,
gotta go to the place in El Paso, Texas, that was backed up there, and then somewhere in Hawaii,
and exactly, and the way that they do it is all redundant and all that stuff. They gotta make regulations for them to require that they build in ways to pull that stuff out. Right now, they just doing it out of good practice. I mean, just being a good company citizen. I mean, but it's not required. It's not a regulation. So I mean, yeah, your data is going to be as pulled out as far as the company feels like doing it. As much as the money they spend feel like putting into making that thing a functionality, a feature to have your data pulled out, that's how much they're going to spend on actually making sure it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, if the government makes it a thing and sues them for it, then yeah, they'll make it a thing.
Yeah, man. That's what it takes, right? Once you get the gov involved, man, the government then is like, all right, this is
all right, we got to button this up. They trying to shut us down. They trying to shut us down for real. We gotta kill one of these motherfuckers. I mean, but
hit the red button, man.
Right. Yeah. We Google. We know where they live. Let's hit this last song.
This is the one I wanted to jump into, man.
Yeah.
So it says, so Google Stadia's launch was a disaster. What's next? Like, I don't have Google Stadia, I wanted to see how it was going to play out, but I did have high hopes, I think we talked about it in one of our previous episodes when we were talking about how like they had a campaign that was going to be heavily catered towards, women, right?
Yeah,
Like people
women in tech.
identify as female, right? So it's like
Oh yeah,
now that
women
we
in
hear
tech.
this, yeah, woman, yeah. I mean, that's same difference, right?
Yeah,
but yeah, like hearing this, then that joint was just a complete flop. It speaks to, I feel like, the nature of the company. Like that's what Google does, right? They go out there and see, they get the arrows in their back. But I think
hmm
where I was thinking is the direction that we're headed now with things becoming more virtual. We're starting to get more and more away from the physical products, right? Like physical devices that we use. I was thinking it was going to be a hit because you're able to access it from different places. It's not, you're not locked down to a particular place. That's
Yeah,
been a numerous times I thought about just being on the bus riding somewhere. And I'm like, I want to, pull out, Madge, start playing when I'm like taking the bus back home or something like that, right?
yeah,
But how
yeah,
convenient that would be. So that's where my mind was with it. But then when I'm hearing like, all this stuff about, people was having troubles with like downloading it. A lot of the people that like they created it didn't even have like special keys to get in. It was like it
yeah,
almost sounds like it was still in the alpha stage,
yeah.
and they just
It's
went
still,
ahead and
it's
pushed it
definitely
out.
still in beta, from what they say. From what they say, it's still in beta. I mean, I think most of this was marketing, because they Google's not that company, man. Um,
Right.
Google never has been really that company to do things like they never deliver like their first impression is horrible. Yeah, I mean, their first impression is always horrible. Yeah, I mean, and I like to say that because I fault myself on this sometimes. Like I'm never but good on the first impression. I'm good on the long term. Yeah, I mean, first impression you gonna hate me, but long term you'll love me.
Yeah, I feel
But,
like
like their first impression is always just like we're trying to do something that's completely different that's never been done before, and with the way of pushing the Stadia service, they had a different marketing team from what they were used to. Like this Phil guy, I can't remember his last name, but he's basically the guy that's running Stadia for the most part. I want to say Phil Harrison, but it might not be Phil Harrison. But like he used to work with Sony, and
mm,
he used to work with PlayStation, and like he tried to push this as this is his baby. Stadia, I mean, it's not it's a Google technology, but it's him that's doing the marketing. He's the Steve Jobs for Stadia.
his
Yeah.
name is Phil, by the way. Yeah, Phil Harrison. You're right.
Yeah. Oh damn, I was clean. That's that photo memory. Yeah, I mean, like he basically he's the one that's doing the marketing portion of this, and like the way that he presented Stadia, he presented it like other companies. I mean, he presented it like how Sony presents things. He presented how like Microsoft presents like products. I mean, and
Right.
Google isn't that company that does they the tortoise. They're not the hare.
Yeah.
I mean, like I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, they definitely, when it comes to the start, you be looking at them like, yo, what did y'all do? I mean, like, where you see Apple all the way down there? You about to go take a break? Yeah, I mean,
Right.
like, um, but Google, I mean, Google has Google Cloud, and that's what they're really basing this on. It's only three companies that are, well, it's more than three because I can't deny IBM and then all the other companies that are doing some, but like
Yeah.
there's really only like three cloud players. Like we're talking about how about like the fourth place. You really can't call it fourth place. You know what I mean, like
Yeah.
I mean, the it's either Amazon, it's either Google Cloud, or it's Microsoft Azure. I mean, and Google is basically in this market to be pushing their Google Cloud platform via Stadia. Yeah, I mean, so like
Mm.
people are building like if Google Cloud is the technology of having all those data centers, Stadia is like the software platform that talks to all those data centers. I mean, and like what they
Ah,
want what they want these game developers to be doing is to build applications to Stadia, and like even like that Founders Edition, that was supposed to be a beta. Technically, Stadia isn't even to be coming out until March. Like, if you didn't get the Founders Edition, then you can't really play Stadia right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like you only plan under the Founders Edition, and like eventually, what they want to be able to do is make it so that you don't have to buy a controller. Ultimately, you just buy the game, and you just buy the game. I mean, you essentially have a free account. If you want the pro account, they give out those free games every month. It's like 2 free games a month, something like that. But by default, they want to make it as simple as you just buy the game and you start playing. And right now, yeah, they messed up with the launch because it's a beta and they had all these issues and they never marketed it as a beta. I mean, it's just releasing to the public just for the first time. They did have, like, I even played they had a release like earlier this year of Assassin's Creed. It was like Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Stadia, and all you had to do was go to the website. You can play it on your browser. I didn't have my controller. I didn't have my PlayStation controller up here, so I can only play with like my keyboard and mouse, and it sucked doing that. But you can see just in 5 minutes using the keyboard and mouse where it could be, because I'm like, yeah, my computer is not a gaming computer. I didn't have this computer at the time. I'm like, it's not a gaming computer, but it's playing this game. I mean, it looks good.
It's one of those things that, you know, it's like what I was going to ask, man, is I see where now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sitting here listening to you, right? And I'm like, as far as our gaming experience goes, right? I think that there's a lot of hype. Like, you're absolutely right, and I get it. Like, because they're saying that a part of what handed, you know, the reason why Stadia was handed this L too is because, you know, in comparison to Microsoft xCloud, they was killing it. You know what I mean? They just couldn't measure up. I'm like, when you think about the gaming experience, I feel like I started off on console. I think most people may have started from our generation, started off on the console, right? So to move away from that, it just doesn't feel as authentic now I think about it. Because you're right, like you may be playing like Assassin's Creed, or I think like they had like Madden or some other stuff, and it's like
they released like 15 games.
Yeah. It just doesn't. He's been here. Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah,
like, you gotta want to play any one of those 15, and all those 15 are available on other consoles.
Yeah, it's do I feel like, I'm playing Assassin's Creed, do I want to sit there on my computer with the keys?
Yeah,
it don't. I'm used to playing like when it comes to PC gaming, or like I guess gaming that doesn't require a console, right? Doesn't come with a console. I'm thinking like your Command and Conquer, right? Like those type of games.
Yeah,
you're talking about like Manor, so like that. Let's take it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we talk about playing like a Madden or 2K or what's another one? All these games, Red Dead Redemption,
like games designed for a joystick, like for a controller. Like it's compatible. Like they do have it so that it's compatible with if I didn't bring my PlayStation controller up, but if I brought my PlayStation controller up, I could actually hook it up through USB and play on my browser. I could play in Google Chrome with a PlayStation controller hooked up to my television, to my computer. Yeah, or my laptop. Yeah, or my phone. Yeah, but I think it's only certain phones right now. I think it's only like the Pixel 4 and the Pixel 3 type thing. On your phone. It's only certain phones like that, but like you can use other input devices for it. But like they really just messed up how they messed it up to the media, because if they told the media that this is a beta and this is not really coming out till March, then they wouldn't expect anything until March. And they'd
have been like, oh, so this is pretty good for a beta, or like, y'all gonna work the kinks out, but you present this thing like, this is what it is, finished
product.
Yeah, and people like, nah.
and it's not. And people still have issues with what it's going to be in general, but like because people do want their consoles. They want to be able to like only play whatever games that they buy, no matter whether they're online or offline. But the world is going to change in technology, and like people aren't projecting like when 5G takes over and when like internet prices ultimately start going down even further for faster speeds, because it's just going to be easier to get faster internet.
Yeah, Moore's
Like,
law.
yeah, so like, yeah, once it gets in the next 5-10 years, it won't matter. Like everything is going to be online. Even if you say you offline, you're not going to be offline. It's only almost impossible because internet is going to be so much more everywhere than it is now. Like everybody now, 4G came out in like 2010. I mean, and it changed this decade. Everything is online because of 4G. I mean, 5G is basically the alternative to having broadband in the house. That's about to change everything. I mean, you got broadband wherever you go. I mean, so like,
Wow. Yeah.
like that's going to change how gaming is happening. And like something like Stadia, they're trying to get all of this out now and just so that they can be like, we were the beginners. We started this. Like everybody, there was on live, and PlayStation has PlayStation Now, but their issue was that they were only really pushing older, like last gen games. Since Stadia came out, they started talking about how they're starting to do current gen games. You can get stuff on PS4 now, but people still aren't really buying into it. I haven't seen how the market is doing, but I haven't heard much news about it. And I mean, and another thing, like you said, Microsoft has xCloud. You're using their cloud platform, Microsoft's cloud platform, to be able to do game streaming. And from what I heard in the news a couple months ago, Sony basically has a contract to use Microsoft Azure to manage their Sony's cloud.
There you go, man. Getting in bed with each other again.
I mean, yeah, because they were like, well, we know Sony is coming, Stadia is coming out. Google's coming out with Stadia. We got to be able to compete in this market. Who should we compete with? Our like, it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend type thing.
There you go. Always,
I mean, Google is Microsoft's competitor by far. I mean, so the best thing for Sony to do is to not try to fight Google and Microsoft, but to partner up with Microsoft in an industry that they've been long competitors. It's like spy versus spy.
Yeah, they don't want to be the Green Party out of the Republicans.
I mean, essentially, they will get pushed out. I mean, Sony is a content creator. Like Sony has the platform, but more than anything, Sony has the games, like the exclusive stuff that people really enjoy that go beyond gamers. I mean, like they have the games that make people that wouldn't necessarily want to play a game sit back and watch it and be like, yo, I was entertained by watching that couple hours.
It's crazy you say that, because I actually had it's funny you said I don't know if Kingdom Hearts 2 was exclusive for PS2. Yeah, but I remember watching my homeboy play Kingdom Hearts 2 on a PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean? Sony had a partnership with Square for a while. Like Sony, like, because Square is Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, because they partner with Disney, and like Sony and Square have been like the company. My light went out. Sony and Square has been the company for a while. They've been partnered up since, like, what was it, Final Fantasy VII? Since that came out, became a big hit on PlayStation 1. It was like, yeah, we will keep funding every game that y'all come out with. Just keep making games that make people want to play on our console. I mean, so like they definitely had that skill set. Square is definitely a good storyteller for game creation.
For sure, and it's great. Like, and you're absolutely right as far as how Sony, them being great at hosting content, creating content. They got on board as like a supporting cast rather than trying to like compete against the Titans. And I think that's with them working hand in hand with Sony and Microsoft working hand in hand, like using each other's services. Mm-hmm. It's like it only makes sense that now Google Stadia, they just, it's kind of like a.
Yeah, I think Google's still going to potentially win, because I feel like this is a long-term play, because they really just starting now, but they really pushing this for next gen. Yeah, I mean, because because the thing that console games are like, the reason that they got to go to Google to cloud platforms is because consoles have natural limitations versus having a cloud where you can essentially make an endless world. And like, if you want to go to Matrix levels, like that new Cyberpunk game that's coming out that everybody looks and be like, yo, that looks so beautiful and all this stuff. How can you do it? it's going to be very hard for that to be played on a console without like a cloud type platform to back it up. I mean, like the future games that they come out, it's a platform. What is that platform, y'all? That's built on AWS and Google. Spatial OS. Whenever you get a chance, look up Spatial OS. This is for y'all too. Look up Spatial OS. Spatial OS is basically a platform for gamers, for game developers, for being their net code. And essentially, it makes it so that they can build these large ass worlds. They want to make it so that they can make worlds. The dude said that his ultimate goal is to simulate Earth. Yeah, I mean, he wants to.
There you go. The diabolical schemes,
yeah,
man.
I mean, he wants to create it so that you can simulate a city and be like, all right, you can virtually go to a point where a traffic grid lockup is and see what the traffic looks like in the virtual world without cameras and all that stuff. Those are cool and all, but if you can have it tied to, because like everything's ran by computers, telephone systems, traffic systems, utility power, internet power, all that's technically got sensors hooked up for computers so that they can see what's going on. And if they can have all those sensors talk back to this system, the spatial system, to create a virtual world, they can essentially create this world that they can just zoom in and look at and say, all right, there's an issue going on here. There's a grid lockup going on here. There's a police crime going on over at this location. And it just looks like a version of Grand Theft Auto or some shit. And like it allows them to pull in to get this virtual world going on. And like that's what he essentially wants to create. But to start that, start with video games. I mean,
that's how you slowly ease them into it, right? Let's make it again.
I mean, and then next thing you know, 10, 20 years later, you got the Matrix, everybody getting beat down by robots and turned into battery cells. I mean, that's what that be. But like that's the ultimate goal. But I want to see these games come into fruition, and that means that the cloud platforms I have to get into play. Google fumbling on this release is just Google being Google. Like they fumble on
that's
it.
What they do.
I doubt they'll get rid of it because it's an instant market for it. They pulled back on their Daydream VR solution. They used to have this thing called Daydream VR that they were trying to do virtual reality on there.
Oh, I remember that. They that flop though heavy.
Yeah, they pulled back on it because I think they're going to repush it with this Stadia system. I mean, because what VR was talking about, having all the processing on the phone. I mean, so you hook the phone up to your headset, and then all the processing is done there. But if you got,
I remember that. Then that just slowly like faded away into the distance. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, like they had some developers trying to test it out, and it was like, Oculus was picking up. Yeah, the Oculus Go, and that was the thing. Branding is important, and like Oculus Go was essentially the mobile version of Oculus that you was able to get for like $150, and that made it so nobody actually wanted to get the Daydream because it was still cheap, and none of them are really good at this point. But if you're talking about doing something in the cloud, you don't necessarily have to worry about how strong the phone is. I mean, all the processing, all the detail graphics is being done in the cloud, and then they just feed you a feed through your phone, so you can have the highest resolution, and then you just have it on your headset, and your inputs are your movements, your head movements, and that's the only thing that's sent back to their data center is the way you're looking and what you're pointing and shooting at. I mean, so like, I think they're gonna reiterate it. I think they're gonna push it. Google isn't giving up on this at all. They always do long-term plays on everything.
I think what frees them up to do that is because I think that Google is more their ideology when it comes to technology. I think they're definitely more quantity over quality. Like they find their quality by pushing out a whole lot of quantity. That's what they're like, pushing out a whole lot of different things, allow a whole lot of things, let it be like open-ended and all that stuff like that, and then just like see what sticks up there. And it's like once they see what sticks, we're gonna refine that, brand it as the best.
Yeah, they have a whole
department. You have the Google search engine.
They have a whole department to deal with just coming up with random stuff. Just like, what is that? I mean, they do that whole 20% thing where they give people a day of their work week just to work on their project. I mean, just you got to have some project, and it has to fruition at some point. But You don't have to do your mundane tasks. You get to focus on this thing that you want to happen, and they do that off of the potentiality that something will blow up in some form of factor. But yeah, they definitely throw a lot to the wall and just see what sticks. That's just their MO. Now that they got all the money, because you know they in the advertisement business, they the top dogs in the advertisement business. So you get all this money, you get to see what you can do.
Ads, man, that's where it's at, man. I mean, you know, Bing didn't catch on, so
Ultimately, it's about a new ad because you know got the virtual. They say there's no more real estate, so they built more real estate in the
there
virtual
you go.
world.
Yeah.
I mean, with the new real estate, you got places to put ads. So like, I've been waiting for Grand Theft Auto to put ads in their games. I've been waiting for me to drive past a billboard and see something for McDonald's or some shit.
It's like
Order from Grubhub. You know what I mean, while I'm driving past in GTA. You know what? I think I will. I mean, pick up my virtual phone on Grubhub and shit, and just hook up and order some food without even leaving the game. I know it's gonna happen.
Getting crazy, yo. Yeah.
I know it's gonna happen. And that's when I'm going to become a lumberjack. That's why I'm growing all this hair. If I become a Unabomber.
Yeah, you tripping. Yeah, man. I think, man, that you can probably wrap it up there, man. Great topics always discussed, man. I mean, it's me, Mike Bennett, Mike Baker. You know, this is what we do.
Yeah, man.
We bring y'all, you know, some more criticism on what's going on in this industry. And, you know, we try to big up folks that's doing great things as well. But yeah, I mean, we talk. That's what we do. We go in on Google. It's probably one of our favorites. But I want you all just to stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. You can listen to our podcast on pretty much all of the places that host podcasts that you would typically go through, right? I mean, everything from you know, your iTunes, your Spotify's. You can catch us on there. Also, we go to YouTube. You can search us up there, and you can leave a comment down in the comment boxes, and make sure you subscribe to all our channels. And that's pretty much it, man. Do you have anything else, Mike, that you want to do?
Nah, man. Peace out, babe.
All right, man. It's Mike Bennett and Mike Baker signing out. Peace.
Cheers.